I recently came across an Instagram post by Joe Rohde, who is the former Disney Imagineer who's best known for creating Animal Kingdom. And what he said was, the curious thing about sketching is the profound way in which the images are printed in your own mind. The second benefit of sketching is that you remember not only what was sketched, but the general surrounding circumstances of making the sketch. Time of day, temperature, background noises. They become like physicalized memories. Now, I am not Joe Rohde, and neither are you, unless you happen to be Joe Rohde, in which case, hi, I'm glad you're here. But everything that he said about sketching applies to my work too, even though I'm a completely untrained artist who's only been doing this for a few years. And it applies to your work, especially when traveling. For me, sketching has been a game changer in how I internalize memories. It feels like it uses a completely different part of the brain from, say, taking a photograph. So I want to show you today some of the ins and outs of travel sketching that I've discovered over the past few years. From what I took with me on my most recent trip to some of the pitfalls that I've run into, mistakes that I've made, so hopefully you don't have to make them too. And if you stick around until the very end, I'll show you the exact notebook and sketchbook pages I drew on my most recent trip. What I really want to get across is that this can be super simple, and you do not have to be an artist to be a sketcher. Really, all you need is a sketchbook, a pencil, and a willingness to sit for a minute and notice what's around you. So just recently I went on this 2-week trip up and down the East Coast. This was a solo trip, so I had a lot of time to just sit and sketch if I wanted to. My time was my own. I was really excited on this trip to bring a new accessory with me. This is my new art toolkit from the appropriately named company Art Toolkit out of Port Townsend, Washington. And this holds everything you need to go out sketching. If you want to see specifically the very minimalist sketching kit that I like to carry, I do have a video about that I will link in the description for you. For now, suffice it to say that I like to have a few Micron pens or other water-insoluble ink pens, some water brushes with the water already inside so I don't need to deal with a bowl of water. I use whatever paper I have to hand, which is usually just my regular traveler's notebook, and a tiny watercolor palette. Like I said, it doesn't take a lot. Over the course of this trip and a few before it, I came up with some rules of thumb for myself, mostly to keep myself from giving up on the sketching part of it, from deciding I wasn't good enough or that I didn't have time to sit down and sketch. So one of my first rules for myself is to not be embarrassed if I'm in public and someone asks if I'm an artist. I have sketched in public gardens, I've sketched at Disneyland, I've sketched at historic sites, in parks and hotels and busy shopping districts. And one thing that happens constantly is that you become an attraction. And that can be really scary if you aren't confident in your art abilities. Ideally, if someone came up to me and said, "Oh, are you an artist?" I would reply, "Yes, I am," with full confidence. But I don't feel super comfortable with that. So a lot of times when people come up to me, I just tell them the truth, that I enjoy sketching. And maybe I tell them what I'm telling you in this video, that I find sketching very relaxing. I find it a way to get to know a place better. Or that I'm fairly new to the hobby, but I'm really enjoying it. Sketching in public does mean that people are going to notice what you're doing. You're just a person practicing a hobby, and you can be honest about that. Another rule of thumb for me is if I see something that I want to sketch, but I'm really not in a position to do it, there's no comfortable place to sit, there's not time at that particular moment, I will snap a picture of it and go back and sketch it later. I find it much more satisfying to sit in a hotel room with my sketchbook in the evenings and some music on than to watch cable television, for example. The other time that's great for catching up on sketching is when you're in an airport and on a layover. You can either sketch from photos on your phone that you've taken, or even just sketch people and scenes from the airport. At its heart, though, sketch travel is not snapping pictures and sketching them later. It's slow travel. It's being in a place, soaking up the atmosphere of that place, and catching it as it is in a moment. So if you're traveling with an intent to sketch, schedule in time for that. Just make sure you've allowed yourself the space to move slowly. Add an extra hour to grab a coffee and find a park bench and sit down and sketch. I guarantee you won't regret that hour. And even though it might be time away from seeing yet another museum or doing yet another tourist activity, it will really cement a sense of place in your travels for you. Another rule that I have is to let go of perfection. My sketches do not look like the sketches of a professional artist. They just don't. I drew this sketch of a William Penn statue, and one of his legs looks a little bit like it's made of melted wax. It happened. Sometimes my perspective is off. I'm really bad at perspective. Sometimes I draw extra lines that I didn't intend to draw and just try to cover them up with some sort of pattern or something. Your sketches are never going to be perfect, and that's okay. There will always be something, and either you'll remember it for next time or you won't. But either way, you're going to be left with a memory. One of the things that I like to do on a trip that's longer than a couple of days is to create my own souvenir in the form of an accordion notebook. Traveler's notebooks make these accordions that fit inside your traveler's notebooks. Other companies do make them too. But I find that one accordion fold notebook is just the right size for like a 7 to 10 day trip. I did that on a trip to New York a few months ago, and it turned out wonderfully. So I tried to do it again on my trip to the East Coast, and I made a pivotal mistake. I tried to both create this accordion notebook souvenir and draw every day inside my regular traveler's notebook. Oh, and I brought my urban sketching notebook too, thinking that I would do some urban sketches. The result was that I did a little bit in each of those formats, and none of them really got completely finished. I also, even as I just advised against it, did get caught up in a little perfectionism with that accordion notebook because it was my souvenir. You don't need to capture your trip 3 different ways. Pick one that's right for the trip. If it's just a couple days, maybe in your regular sketchbook. If it's longer, perhaps create something like the accordion notebook specifically for that trip. Just take it from me, 3 different ways is too many. Another lesson learned is that you really want to keep things light. I thought that I would work on videos, I would do some filming, I'd do some sketching, all while I was on my trip on the East Coast. And I did do all of those things, but I also tried to carry the equipment for all of those things with me everywhere. And I ended up messing up my shoulder and being in pain even still from what I did to myself with my heavy backpack. Put together a kit for yourself that's lightweight and easy to carry and is not a barrier to you sketching. Another thing I'd recommend is just checking in advance that the tools that you want to bring with you are allowed in the place that you're going. When I went to New York City, I took my sketch tools with me to the Empire State Building, and they run your bag through an X-ray machine on your way in. Now, I happen to have a little pair of scissors in my bag to use to, cut up ephemera or washi tape or whatever that I wanted to add to my images. And as my bag went through the X-ray, the guard pulled it back and said, "What do you have in here?" And I said, "Oh, I just have a little pencil case in there for sketching." And they said, "Okay, I could swear that I saw a pair of scissors. I wisely did not say anything and they let me go. But now I know that even small airplane-friendly scissors are not allowed at the Empire State Building. Sometimes when you go to museums, they also don't allow any wet media, so you might have to have just something like pencils and a sketch pad when you go there. You don't want to lose your art supplies. Art supplies are not inexpensive, so just do check the rules for wherever you're going before you go. The absolute biggest thing to remember is just that this is fun. When you sit down to sketch at a destination, the idea is for you to have a moment to yourself, to enjoy the place that you're in, to feel into the experience of that place, the experience of the moment, and capture it in a way that will, as Joe Rohde put it, become like a physicalized memory. If you've been travel sketching for a long time, or you just started, or you're considering taking it up in the future, let me know in the comments. Ask me any questions that you might have, or add any advice you have for somebody new or for somebody semi-new like me. And until next time, I am wishing you love and joy and all those good things. And I can't wait to talk to you again. Hey, I just wanted you to know that I also have a newsletter. It is completely free to join, but if you decide to become a paying subscriber, I have these awesome love and joy and all of those good things pins. You can check it out at fromjen.substack.